There's a particular kind of stillness in your yard the moment a bird lands near you when you're sad, closer than it has any reasonable cause to be. You're on the back step, coffee gone cold in your hands, somewhere between thinking and not thinking. Then, without sound, a cardinal drops onto the railing 3 feet from your shoulder. Not the feeder, not the fence line, 3 feet from you. You don't move. Neither does the bird. For a long moment, you look at each other, or it feels that way, and some old, quiet part of you wants this to mean something. It happens to grieving people more than almost anyone else reports it. A bird, closer than usual, on the worst days. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what is happening inside that bird's mind in that moment, and the real answer is stranger and somehow more comforting than the folklore.
You've probably heard the saying, when a cardinal appears, an angel is near. A piece of American folk wisdom passed through grief support groups, hospice pamphlets, and family kitchens for generations. It feels true in the moment. The timing, the closeness, the way the bird seems to choose you. But here's the uncomfortable question underneath the comfort. Cardinals are common. They're one of the most frequently reported backyard birds in North America, which means some of those visits are simply math. A familiar red bird doing what cardinals do on a day you happen to be paying very close attention. That doesn't make the feeling wrong. It makes the real explanation more interesting. Because something in that bird's behavior actually did change that day. The question is, what exactly changed? In the bird or in you? What if the bird wasn't reading your sadness at all, but reading something underneath it you didn't know you were broadcasting?
Every wild bird carries an invisible boundary around its body. Biologists call it flight initiation distance, the exact point at which a perceived threat becomes too close and the bird launches. A framework developed by ecologist Daniel Bloomstein at UCLA in 2003 turned this from a vague impression into something measurable. How far away, how fast you're moving, which direction you're facing, even your height in the bird's field of view all factor into whether you register as predator or background. Cardinals, like most backyard songbirds, run this calculation constantly, instinctively, every time you step outside. On an ordinary day, walking toward the feeder, talking, gesturing, your motion keeps you firmly inside the predator category. The bird keeps its distance, the same distance, almost every time, which makes the day it doesn't keep that distance worth paying attention to. Something about you that day fell outside the bird's usual prediction.
Grief is biomechanically a very specific kind of body. You move less, you breathe slower and shallower, your shoulders drop. Your gaze, instead of scanning and assessing the way it does on an ordinary errand-running day, fixes on one point, or nowhere at all. To a bird running constant threat calculations, every one of those signals reads the same way. Lowered risk. Not sadness, stillness. Not grief. A slower-moving, quieter shape that no longer triggers the same alarm thresholds. The two states happen to look almost identical from 3 feet up on a porch railing. This is not folklore. It's the same flight initiation framework researchers have measured across more than 190 bird species on 3 continents. The bird isn't choosing you out of sympathy. It's recalculating risk in real time, and on that particular day, you stopped registering as a threat. Which means, in a strange way, your sadness made you safer to approach than you have ever been.
Flight initiation distance explains the moment. It doesn't explain why some birds seem to recognize specific people. In 2008, researchers at the University of Washington, led by wildlife biologist John Marsluff, captured and banded American crows while wearing a distinctive rubber mask. For years afterward, those same crows scolded and dive-bombed anyone wearing that mask, and taught their offspring, who had never been captured, to do the same. The crows weren't reacting to a human. They were reacting to one specific human, recognized by face years later.
Cardinals aren't corvids, and no study has tracked individual face memory in cardinals the way Marsloff's team did with crows. But the underlying capacity, fine-grained individual recognition of the humans in their territory, is now documented across multiple backyard bird species, not as a rare gift, but as an ordinary feature of how songbird brains process the humans who keep showing up.
Black-capped chickadees, common in the same backyards as cardinals across most of the U.S., reveal just how detailed that processing can be. Research led by Christopher Templeton at the University of Washington found that chickadees encode specific information inside their alarm calls. The number of D notes rises with the actual size and danger level of a nearby predator, a tiny owl earning a much longer alarm than a large, slow hawk. That's not a generic warning system. That's an assessment, communicated in real time, of exactly how much risk a specific creature poses. Zoom out, and your entire yard is being constantly assessed and reassessed by a network of small brains running calculations about you specifically every single day you've ever stepped outside, most of which you've never noticed because most days you register as background.
That ongoing assessment is also how trust gets built, slowly, without you ever consciously training it. European robins are so well documented following gardeners that the behavior has its own place in field guides. They learn that a specific human doing a specific repeated action reliably exposes food, and they begin showing up earlier, closer, faster each time that human appears. American cardinals at a feeder are doing a quieter version of the same math. The hand that fills the feeder, the voice that talks softly on the porch, the shape that sits still in the same spot week after week. None of that is random to the bird. It's data, collected and weighted, about whether you specifically are safe. Which raises the real question this video has been circling the whole time. Not whether the bird noticed you were sad, but how long it had already been watching you before that day.
There's something worth sitting with here. The version of you that grief makes, slower, quieter, less defended, is also, by complete coincidence of evolution, the version of you a wary animal finds easiest to trust. You weren't performing safety. You were simply too tired or too sad to perform anything at all. And that absence of performance is exactly what a prey-aware brain is built to read as truth. Stress hormone research across dozens of bird species, widely published between 2010 and 2025, shows that birds regulate corticosterone, a stress hormone, in response to perceived threat, in patterns strikingly similar to mammalian stress responses. The 2012 Cambridge Declaration on Consciousness, signed by a group of leading neuroscientists, formally recognized that birds, among other non-human animals, possess the neurological substrates for subjective experience. The bird on your railing is not a symbol. It's a nervous system, genuinely calculating, genuinely responding to something real in you.
None of this requires the bird to know what sadness is. It only requires that sadness in a human body produces signals a bird's nervous system has spent its entire evolutionary history learning to read with total seriousness. Stillness, quiet, reduced threat. The folklore got the timing right and the mechanism wrong. It wasn't a visitor crossing some boundary to reach you. It was a wild animal's risk assessment system built over millions of years, correctly identifying that the creature on the porch that day posed less danger than it ever had before. Think back to the last ordinary Tuesday a bird landed at your feeder, and you barely looked up. Same yard, same bird maybe, a completely different read on you.
Go back to the porch. The coffee gone cold. The cardinal, 3 feet away. Neither of you moving. What you now know is this. That bird almost certainly isn't a stranger. Cardinals and chickadees both show strong sight fidelity, staying within the same few acres, often the same yard, for years at a time. A pattern confirmed across decades of citizen science data collected through Cornell Lab of Ornithology's Project Feeder Watch. The bird on your railing has likely seen you before,
filling the feeder, walking the dog, sitting on that exact step on ordinary days when nothing was wrong. It has been running its quiet calculations about you for longer than you've been paying attention to it. And on the day everything in you went still, its calculations simply changed.
This is not the same as a visit from someone you lost. Science can't make that claim, and this channel won't pretend it can. But it's not nothing either. It's a small wild animal watching a familiar shape go quiet with grief and choosing, based on real, measurable signals, to come closer instead of farther away. There's a kind of company in that, even if it isn't the company folklore promised. The bird didn't know your sadness. It simply stopped being afraid of it. And for a few seconds on a hard day, something alive chose to stay near you anyway.
If this changed how you'll look at the next bird that lands close, you'll want to watch what happens when researchers tested exactly how long backyard birds remember the humans who feed them. Not days, not weeks, but years, across multiple species, in findings that surprised even the scientists who ran them. That video is called "Your Cardinal Has Been Watching You Longer Than You Think," and what that means for you. And it picks up exactly where this one ends. The next time a bird lands closer than it should, you won't wonder if it's a coincidence. You'll wonder what, exactly, it already knows about you.
This week, try sitting near your feeder without your phone, without moving much, for 10 quiet minutes at the same time each day. Keep your gaze soft, not fixed directly on any one bird. Direct staring reads as predatory to most songbirds. Let the same hour become a pattern the birds can learn. If you feed cardinals or chickadees, resist the urge to refill the feeder while standing right beside it. Let them watch you do it from a small distance first. Then close that distance slowly over weeks, not days. Keep a simple log of which birds show up and when. Patterns will emerge faster than you'd expect. You are not imagining the relationship building. You're building it in a language older than words, one quiet morning at a time. New video every week. I'll see you in the yard.